News in 5.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
This is World News in 5 here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Pakistan conducted airstrikes inside Iran on Thursday in an apparent response to Tehran's aerial bombardment on southern Pakistan early this week. According to Pakistan's military, the strikes targeted bases used by the Baloch Liberation Front or BLF and the Associated Baloch Liberation Army inside Iran's southeastern Sistan Baluchistan province. Islamabad's foreign ministry in a separate statement said the attack was in pursuit of Pakistan's own security and national interests, stressing the move is paramount and cannot be compromised. It added the strikes killed a number of terrorists, describing it as a series of highly coordinated and specifically targeted precision military strikes against terrorist hideouts. Tehran immediately condemned the attack, saying civilians were killed in the operation. It also said that it summoned Pakistan's Chargé d'Affaires to provide an explanation on the incident. The strikes happened just days after Tehran launched missile and drone strikes against the militant group called Jaish al-Adil terrorist group, which it said operates in southern Pakistan. Islamabad has called Iran's move a blatant breach of its sovereignty and said Pakistan reserved the right to respond in the attack. It also recalled its ambassador from Tehran, adding that it would not allow Iran's ambassador to return to the Pakistani capital. This week's exchange of strikes is the highest profile cross-border attack between the two neighboring countries and has raised alarm over wider instability in the region since the Israel-Hamas war broke out in October of last year. Despite the latest incidents, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, after speaking with his Pakistani and Iranian counterparts, said neither Tehran nor Islamabad wanted to escalate the tensions.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
In our news overseas, the United States military says its forces conducted another round of strikes against Yemen's Houthis, this time targeting the group's missiles that it said were loaded to be fired from the Yemeni territory. In a post on its social media X, the U.S. Central Command or U.S. CENTCOM said its forces targeted 14 missiles on the Iran-backed group that it said placed on launch rails and could have been fired at any time. The U.S. CENTCOM emphasized that the missiles presented an imminent threat to merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships in the region, prompting U.S. forces to exercise their inherent right and obligation to defend themselves. It said the strikes, along with other actions taken, were meant to degrade the Houthis' capabilities in conducting reckless attacks on international and commercial shipping in the Red Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and the Gulf of Aden. The United States and Britain began launching air and sea strikes on Houthis last week in a bid to disrupt and degrade the capabilities of Houthis in threatening global trade in the region. U.S. President Joe Biden has said the strikes were a direct response to unprecedented Houthi attacks against international maritime vessels in the Red Sea that he said endangered U.S. personnel and civilian mariners, jeopardized trade, and threatened freedom of navigation. Since the start of the Israeli-Hamas war in Gaza in October, the Iran-backed Houthis have begun launching attacks against commercial ships, disrupting international commerce on the key route. It has said attacks were against Israeli-linked ships in response to Israel's military offensives in Gaza. On Wednesday, U.S. CENTCOM said a drone launched from areas controlled by the Houthis in Yemen had struck a U.S.-owned vessel in the Gulf of Aden. It said the attack had caused some damage to the vessel, but did not injure the crew members of the ship. Earlier on Thursday, the United States listed the Houthis as a terrorist group to cut off the group's funding and weapons it has used to attack or hijack ships.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
For Philippine Embassy and Consular News, the Department of Foreign Affairs Office of Asian Affairs, or DFA ASEAN, recently convened the 35th ASEAN Matters Technical Board, or AMTB, meeting to discuss and exchange views on key developments in the region and to begin work on the strategic plans for the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, or ACV 2045, as well as the Philippines' hosting of ASEAN in 2026. During the meeting, DFA ASEAN Assistant Secretary Daniel Espiritu highlighted the impact of geopolitical developments in ASEAN and the important role of ASEAN member states and other countries in addressing regional and international issues. The Philippines Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, provided updates on ASEAN's regional free trade agreements, external economic relations, support for micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as the status of the drafting of the AEC strategic plan. The Philippines Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, meanwhile provided updates on ASEAN's support for the protection of migrant workers in crisis situations, sustainable resilience, and the status of the development of the ASCC strategic plan. The department conducted a workshop on the strategic plans for the ACV 2045 to familiarize agencies with the strategic plans template and to demonstrate how Philippine priorities and interests could be translated in ASEAN. The strategic plans to be adopted by the leaders in 2025 with the ACV 2045 will map out ASEAN's goals and objectives for the next 20 years. Assistant Secretary Noel Servigon, former permanent representative of the Philippines to ASEAN, presented his book entitled ASEAN Charter, Notes and Comments. He emphasized the importance of promoting the rule of law in ASEAN. Spearheaded by the National Secretariat, the AMTB facilitates interagency coordination in the formulation and implementation of Philippine policy in ASEAN. This is the first AMTB meeting of the year.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
You just heard World News in 5 here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This is Peñano. Good day.
World News in 5.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.